Well, hello creators. How are you guys? It's great to hang out with you for another live stream. We've got some good stuff to talk about here, primarily around hashtags on YouTube. And it's been a thing for a while, but some new things have been happening and we want to talk about them. So for those of you guys who've been around for a while, you know that on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Eastern time, we do these live streams and to kind of keep up to date with what's happening in the online video world and everything, just so because I think it's really important for us as creators to know what's happening so that we can continue to adjust our strategy and take advantage of new features and do what's necessary in order to better reach people and change their lives. And today is no exception to that. I'm getting come on, a switch. All right, hopefully we'll get back here in a second. There we go. We back. Okay. So sorry for the buffering. So what I did is I put this on low latency because I want to interact a little bit better with you guys, but the low latency is a little more finicky than the normal latency is. So hopefully this will be back. Okay, good. So I'm going to be recording this as a podcast, and so you guys who have questions, my producer is in the chat. Her name's Trina, and maybe she'll pop in here and say hi so you guys can see her. But she'll be taking your questions, and I do want to get into them at the end of some recording. I want to get some of the content first, and then we'll jump into your questions. And so Trina will be taking those and making note of them, putting them in front of me, and we'll go through as many of your questions as we can. For those of you guys who are sponsors, soon to be called members, so like Mike from Honda Road Media and Best Football Videos and Patty and Be Adventure Partners, and I saw Jeff Bartz from Story Greenlight in here. There's Trina. Those of you who are sponsors can call in, and I would love for you to call in. In fact, we already have one call-in person who's waiting. But we'll be taking questions that are relevant to the topic. To the topic of hashtags. So if you guys are a sponsor, you'll find a link in the description of this video where you can click and get access to that phone number and call in, and you'll be here live with me in front of everyone in this stream. So it'll be fun to feature you guys and talk about hashtags with you. I don't want to just talk about hashtags to you. I want to talk about it with you. So if you are a sponsor, soon to be called member, click that link in the description and you'll get that phone number that you can then call in, and we can talk about what I want to hear specifically from you guys is your any questions you have about it. I don't really have all the answers, but I'd love to hear what your questions are. And then 2, what strategies maybe you're thinking about using with hashtags, or maybe how you're already using it. I want to hear those as well. And I want to know just kind of what the hashtag thing is changing for you. And so if you have any insights that you want to share or you have questions you want to ask and you're a sponsor, use that call-in number, and I'd love to put you on in front of everybody here. And we'll go through your question together. Okay? So let me hit the record and ask your questions in chat, and we will go through this podcast recording and hit all your questions and call-ins and everything here in just a few minutes at the end. All right, here we go. Got to hit record. Okay. Well, hello creators, how are you guys? It's great to hang out with you again for another Video Creators Podcast episode like we do every Tuesday here on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify. We're in all the places where you listen to your podcast. And today we have a great topic to talk with you guys about. And I know one of the things a lot of you guys are interested in is search and discovery on YouTube. How do we get our videos more discovered? And what is YouTube doing to help me better surface my content and my videos and get in front of the audience I'm trying to reach? And a lot of things. So there's a lot that goes into search and discovery, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware, and we've talked a lot about that here in this podcast, as well as on our channel at youtube.com/video creators. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today with a new feature that YouTube has decided to roll out. And the feature isn't new, but it's kind of a new implementation. And we're talking about hashtags on YouTube. Now, maybe you haven't even seen hashtags be a thing on YouTube, and they kind of haven't been, just because like that wasn't part of the experience of how people like discovered content on here. I mean, on Instagram, we're all very familiar with hashtags, and a lot of people use them intentionally to try to grow their audience and get more exposure. And what I see a lot of people doing now with hashtags on YouTube is just kind of implementing that same strategy and spamming a lot of hashtags and trying to just hope to show up on one of those hashtag lists for people who are searching and browsing those hashtags. I think we're seeing some things that are starting to shift a little bit that might make that more likely. But first of all, let's talk about what I want to do here with you guys here is talk about how hashtags work on YouTube currently. And then 2, I want to talk about how you should and should not use them. And then 3rd, I want to kind of get into some strategies in what I think is kind of the future of video or of hashtags on YouTube and how I think I'm going to be using them, which is a little bit different than I've seen anyone else use them so far, but I think that's okay. We can all try new things. This is new for all of us, right? So my idea might be the worst and yours might be the best. And even hopefully here at the end, we'll have some people calling in because I am live streaming this recording as well. And so everyone in the chat, we'll be answering questions from the chat, and we'll be hopefully having some sponsors soon to be called members of the channel calling in and talking about this as well. But first of all, let's kind of talk about some of these things. So if you're not familiar with what hashtags are on YouTube, basically you hit that shift number 3, hit that pound sign, the number sign, the tic-tac-toe board. If you're my kids, that's what you call it, the tic-tac-toe thing. And then you can put any query, any amount of text you want behind that. And it becomes clickable, and it leads to a search result on YouTube for whatever that thing is. So let's say, for example, on my family's channel, Schmovies, we're all about becoming a big family. I got 7 kids and in 8 years, and so my wife and I tell stories about a big family being a family team. And so we've started focusing a little bit more. We haven't done this before until about a week ago. Focusing more on like, can we take advantage of hashtag family team? And so on YouTube now, if I add hashtag, the pound sign, tic-tac-toe board, whatever you want to call it, family team, anywhere in the description of the video, it now gets prominent placement above the title of the video on YouTube. So there's a little space now between the bottom of the video that's actually playing and the top of the title of the video, which is beneath the video. There's a little space there, and in blue, looking clickable and actually being clickable, are the hashtags that you used in the description. It'll show up right there. Up to 3, I believe. So you can put up to 15. We'll talk about limits and things here in a little bit, but it'll only show 3 if they're in the description. It'll show 3 above the title, which is like some of the most prominent screen real estate on YouTube for hashtags. I mean, that really is a pretty big deal for YouTube to take hashtags out of the description and say, we are going to put these even higher up on the screen than the title of the video. I think they really want people to start using hashtags, and it's not surprising given some of the other features. I do want to talk about how I think this relates to a new feature that YouTube is also experimenting with. But so it gets prominent real estate, and what happens is when it shows up there is any of your viewers can click on that hashtag above the title of the video, and it will lead to a search query for other videos that are using that hashtag. And in the case where no other videos are using that hashtag, it just turns into a simple search result for that query. So if I click, so for example, I'll put hashtag family team on my family's videos. If someone sees that, they click on it, it leads to a search query that is showing them other videos that is used to hashtag family team. And it primarily breaks it down into 2 sections. At the top, you will see a section that is called top videos, and it usually shows like 2 or 3, I think 3 videos from like the top videos, and those just like the more I've found that there tend to be the more recent videos that have gotten the most amount of traction with that hashtag. They're not necessarily top videos in terms of views. It seems to me, from my observation, I don't have any data behind this, other than I've noticed that sometimes those videos aren't really necessarily recent, but they're using the hashtag and they're very popular, or sometimes they don't really have a lot of views, but they are recent, and so they're up there at top videos. Then the section below that on that search result page will be, but it's a smaller. All right, I think we're back. They are very, very fickle. All right, well, it looks like we're back now. Okay. Yeah. Just chill, my dog. YouTube hates Mondays too. That's right. Okay, so if it goes in and out, I think I'm using the low latency setting so we can interact and engage better, but I think that's the problem is that it's just very finicky and my connection must not be stable enough for low latency. So note to self, keep it on normal latency. Okay, let's get back into this. So, what was I saying? Okay, I was talking about, let me scroll up, see what you guys were saying I was saying. I was putting out the title. Okay, putting out the title. All right. Let's see. All right. So putting it to the title, you can click on that as well. And all right, let's talk about some of the hashtag use policies that, I was talking about Instagram. That's what I was doing. Okay. There's a new feature that YouTube's been experimenting with that isn't publicly known, and it's only going out to 1% of iOS users right now on the YouTube app, which is called the Explore tab. And it's exactly what you think it is, just like compare it to Instagram. So we saw like IGTV become a thing a few weeks ago, and so Instagram's moving into more long-form content on their app, and so now you see like Instagram taking over a little, trying to like move into YouTube space a little bit, and so now YouTube's like, I think we need to move into their space a little bit, and so now YouTube, is adding some of these features for search and discovery and browsing that Instagram's been using for a long time. And so this Explore tab gives people a little bit more exposure to new types of content than they would normally get just through suggested videos and browse features on the homepage. So I think it's interesting that what we see on Instagram with hashtags in the Explore tab coming over to YouTube in terms of discoverability methods now that people can use. Now, the Explore tab is not rolled out. It's still just in a very closed experimental stage right now. And like I said, there's only 1% of iOS users using the mobile app or seeing that Explore tab right now. And there's no guarantee that is a thing that's going to be coming out. But the fact that YouTube is experimenting with that, I think, tells kind of, like they're coming in a little bit more Instagram's becoming more like YouTube. And we've talked about this before. All these social networks just kind of want to be like each other anyway. They all steal each other's best ideas. Instagram stole Snapchat, right? And now Facebook has stories, and now YouTube has stories that is rolling out more broadly and things as well. So I think we're just learning best practices from each other. But I do think it's interesting that right now, I don't think too many people are using the hashtags in terms of of discovering content based on hashtags. But if there's an Explore tab coming to the app on iOS for YouTube, and now hashtags are being implemented, I do think it's something that we need to pay attention to. And I'll talk to you guys how I think I'm using this here in a second. But let's talk about hashtag use policies and how YouTube will actually be policing how we use our hashtags. So for those of you guys if you're listening to the podcast, there's a link down in the show notes, or for those of you guys who are watching live right now, there's a link down in the description that goes over to YouTube's help support page, and they have their policies on here. Let's run through them real quick together. Of course, hashtags need to meet YouTube's community guidelines, but what else? Okay, there's a few other things. First of all, and I think this makes sense if you're coming from Instagram, hashtags don't contain any spaces. So if you have 2 words, you got to join them together into one. You can separate them a little bit visually by using capitalization, capitalize, the F in family and the T in team and family team, or you can just run it together. Sometimes I like making up fake hashtags and just doing like a run out sentence all as like all lowercase and make people like sit there and figure it out and to get like the inside joke kind of, but no spaces. Number 2, and this is important, no over tagging. So don't add too many tags to a single video. The more tags you add to a video, the less relevant they become for users who are searching. So that might be something to consider in terms of if your videos are getting to that top video or not for a specific category, or a specific tag, hashtag. Not tag, hashtag, getting to the top of a specific hashtag. YouTube says that we'll ignore all hashtags on that video if it has more than 15 hashtags. Over tagging may result in the removal of your video from your uploads or from search. This is not a surprise. This is, and I'll talk a little bit about this here in a second, but 15 is your limit. And it seems like the more hashtags you use, the less relevant your video becomes for that hashtag. So keep that in mind. I personally would rather be very relevant for 1 strong or maybe 2 strong hashtags. But if you use too many, YouTube's like, you're just spamming us here. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. Number 3, the third hashtag policy they have is no misleading content. Like, okay, shocker there, right? No, don't add any hashtags that are not directly related to the video. So and we've talked about this, if you guys saw my video that I did a few weeks ago with the product manager of search and discovery at YouTube, we talked about this. Don't use misleading tags, and that will actually hurt you in the long run. And so misleading or unrelated tags can also result in the removal of your video from YouTube. So if your video is about a puppy, don't name it PewDiePie. Don't put your hashtag PewDiePie because you think that you're going to get more traction because you use that one, or Markiplier, or whoever you think is popular, or whatever. Don't just focus on things that you think are popular. Focus on tags that are relevant, right? And that's what's going to get you the most results anyway. If let's say you did actually rank for one of those and show up on that hashtag page, and people click, they're going to click away really fast, and it's not going to serve you anyway. So no misleading stuff. Number 4, no harassment. Makes sense. No hashtags that are around bullying, humiliating, intimidating, exposing, threatening anyone, any group or individual people. And that, if you do violate that can also be grounds for dismissing, having your video removed from YouTube. No hate speech. Makes sense. Nothing that promotes violence or hatred towards anyone. Just be a nice person, okay? And that, if you violate that, also have your video removed. Sexual content, so they say no sexual or explicit hashtags. That can also result in removal of your video. Although this next one I thought was like a little bit interesting. No vulgar language hashtags. So it says use of profanity or offensive terms in your hashtags may lead to an age restriction or removal of your video. That's interesting. So age restriction makes sense because if people swear and use language all the time in their content, in their videos, that can be restricted, although I haven't seen that really be the case too many times. It seems to kind of leave that alone. With the idea that if you use a hashtag that like uses the F word, maybe, I don't know what that would do. But apparently that's something they put here. I'm not going to test it. If one of you guys tests it, let me know and see what happens. I'll let you try that on your channel. But I haven't heard any stories yet of what's happening in terms of what's being considered offensive in terms of vulgar language. Now, this last one is very important, okay? Non-hashtags. And this is the mistake I see a lot of people making. And this, guys, it's very important where you get your information for this stuff because I'm taking it straight from Google's help page here, okay? I know you've heard other YouTube experts and YouTube educators in my space talk about this as a recommended practice, but I have seen creators use this practice and have their entire channels terminated. So And I brought it up to some educators in my space who weren't aware of this, and they've since apologized and changed their stuff. But a lot of people are still teaching this for whatever reason. Non-hashtags. So YouTube says this: while adding non-hashtags is allowed, adding ordinary descriptive tags or repetitive sentences in the description is still prohibited. It adds that word still prohibited. Violating this policy will result in the removal of your videos or penalties being applied to your video. So learn more about it at their website about misleading metadata practices. What a lot of creators were doing is just spamming their description text with lots of keywords and tags, hoping that would somehow make their content more relevant to rank for those keywords. Guys, YouTube hasn't worked that way since 2012 or 11 actually. So where are we getting that? If you hear that anywhere, those are people who read a really out-of-date blog post from like 2008 and haven't updated themselves since then. Don't do that. Okay. 1, it doesn't work. 2, it actually violates their terms of service. So you could have your content, and I have seen multi-million subscriber channels eliminated, removed for that. Now, in those cases, they were reinstated. I think YouTube just wanted to make a point, but that was a few years ago, and that hasn't happened recently. But still, the key to growing here is not to add like just all the perfectly optimized metadata. You can have a video that has the most perfectly optimized metadata, and it still won't perform if the content isn't any good. The thing is, most creators think their content is awesome, and the only thing that's holding them back is either you YouTube gods hate me or I'm not doing my metadata right. And I have found like 99.9% of the time, it's usually a content problem, not a metadata problem. But that's a whole nother discussion for another time. So don't use any hashtags that aren't relevant to the video, and don't stuff them. I think it's far better to focus on 1, 2, maybe 3 good, solid, strong ones than to try to get, to a lot of them. Okay. Now, I'm going to dig into some of your questions that you guys have here in a second. And if you are a sponsor of the channel, you want to call in and talk about this, why don't you go ahead and call in now, and we'll get you queued up to talk here on the podcast and in front of the audience here in the live stream. And if you are a sponsor, you'll find a link to that in the description of the live stream. You guys can go get that phone number. You sponsors can check that out. But let's talk about how I want to use this while you guys kind of get your questions and your calls queued up here. I see the way I see most people using this is kind of you thinking of it more or less as like a YouTube tag, where if I use these hashtags, I'm more likely to rank for these queries and these search results and things, which is probably true. The question in my mind, though, and this is similar to Instagram, if you're using tags that let's say it's a really popular tag, let's say you use the tag beauty or family or something on Instagram, unless you have like a really big Instagram following, the likelihood of your content showing up for that hashtag is pretty low. So, I mean, it'll show up in the recents, but it is going to be pushed down really, really fast. So I would think that it's better to go after a more unique hashtag that might not have the volume that a more popular one would have, but that will be more targeted to the audience you're going after and end up in a better conversion into a subscriber or a viewer on your video than just some general hashtags. And so I think because of the way this works, and that you can tap a hashtag and then see all the recent videos as well as the top videos in that hashtag, the way I'm going to be using this, I think, is different. It's not really a discoverability play in terms of trying to get new exposure with these hashtags. I'm thinking about using it more in terms of a community play, of a community strategy, and organizing a community of people around a hashtag. So, for example, a family team, maybe there's a lot of other people who are like watching our videos who share that belief about families, isn't just a bunch of individuals who happen to cohabit the same space together in a building or in a home, but a family is intended to work together and serve together and have fun together and accomplish things. It's more about like the success of the whole rather than the success of each isolated individual. And so for people who share that belief of family team with us, could I start growing a community of people around that hashtag and make it an easy place where other people in our community and our channel who share that belief with us can find other people who are also a part of that community? So I know that can happen a lot in the YouTube comments, but I think it would be interesting to grow an audience around people who are sharing this hashtag. Now, that's been a thing on Instagram for a long time, right? So there's been some creators who brand themselves after a hashtag, and so they like all their content and their community revolves around that hashtag. You got multiple people submitting content around that hashtag. On Instagram, we say in our videos, just as of recently, hey, if you're doing stuff together as a family team, we'd love to see it. Use hashtag family team so we can check it out, and let's build a whole community of people who are like learning and getting ideas from each other about how to better be a family team. And I looked at the hashtag, but there's like we just started about a week ago, but so there's not a whole lot of momentum there yet. But I want to see if I can like organize our community around that on YouTube, where now we have other people who are like, yeah, we're being a family team. They're uploading their content to YouTube. We can get to see it. We get to interact and engage. It's kind of like, and I've seen a lot of creators asking for this feature to come back from YouTube, the responsive videos. People would make a response video, be right there beneath the video. I think this is another way to do that. Just do response videos now around a specific hashtag. So I haven't quite figured out how to do that with video creators yet, to be honest, but it is something that I want to do with our family's channel for sure, and I'm going to keep thinking about it. Like hashtag video creators doesn't really have a belief behind it. It's not really a community thing that people would rally behind. A great example of someone who's doing an amazing, perfect job at this, actually. If you guys have heard of Connor Wanning, hashtag no small creator, you guys can check him out if you'd like. In fact, I encourage you to. He's doing a really good job and really doing an excellent job at forming a community around this hashtag no small creator. He's got a Facebook group around it. His channels are using the hashtag. Other channels that are in that community are using that hashtag. That's like a perfect example of how I'm thinking about using the hashtag feature, as opposed to just doing the search thing. And the reason, again, in case I didn't say about the search thing, is that I just don't think people are thinking in terms of browsing hashtags on YouTube the way they think that way on Instagram. I think the Explore tab might actually be a better term in terms of discoverability, depending on how that's implemented on YouTube. But there's not a lot of people who are like, yeah, you know what I want to do today? I don't know how to type the search query into the top of YouTube, so I'm going to click on this hashtag and just look at other videos that are using this hashtag. It's a more specific search query, obviously, but I think I'm thinking about it more in terms of community and less in terms of discovery right now. So for a good example of someone I think is doing well, check out the hashtag no small creator on YouTube, on everywhere, Facebook, Instagram. And you can check out Connor Wanning's channel to kind of see how he's doing. There we go. Nick Fam TV. Thank you for Nish Fam for the $5 super chat. And there you go. R. Cody Wanner. Sorry, I said Wanning. Yes, sorry. Cody Wanner. No small creator is the hashtag. I think that's what he's going. All right, cool. Let's jump into some of your questions. We don't have any of you guys who are sponsors who have called in. At least no one's in queue right now. So call in if you guys want to talk about how you're going to be using hashtags and what and some of your questions and ideas around it might be. I want to hear from you guys. But in the meantime, let's jump into some of the questions you guys are having. So one sponsor, B Adventure Partners, asks, should tags be used inline in sentence structure? That's how I'm using it, but that's also because, again, I'm going back to using it like around a community. So I'm not just listing hashtags in my description. I'm like, Schmovies is all about, here at Schmovies, we are a hashtag big family, all about becoming a hashtag family team. And so I'm putting it actually as like part of like my value proposition or the pitch for what we're all about. And so that the hashtag actually makes sense rather than just using it the same way we think of like tags. So I am putting it in sentence structure, or if I use it in title, I am using it that way. Now, I don't know if that's like the best way necessarily, but we're still learning, we're still growing, we're still discovering how this stuff works best and coming up with best practices. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. All right, Haunted Road Media. Hey, Mike. Also, thank you for being a sponsor, Mike. We've got Facebook added hashtags. I'm sorry if I say tags in this conversation, I'm talking about hashtags. Okay, so sorry for the confusion there, maybe on YouTube. But Facebook added hashtags a long time ago, and no one really uses them there. How will viewers be enticed to use them here when they haven't for years on YouTube? That's exactly my point. I don't know that people so far are going to be using them. And I think it maybe is probably an experiment for YouTube as well. I wouldn't be totally surprised if they try this for a while, then it goes away, it stops working the way it is, or they try something else. I do think this is the direction YouTube wants to go, and it's important for them to add other discoverability methods around ways people are used to discovering content on other platforms. But right now, whether or not you're going to get a ton of traction from it, I still think if you got to focus on a discoverability strategy, like focus on like suggested videos, or focus on just really getting to that homepage and doing stuff there. Like that's where I think the juice is worth the squeeze in order where you put your energy and your time. Or if you have really highly educational content, focus on that. But I think it's because there's probably not a ton of users yet browsing the hashtags on YouTube. But that might change, and I hope it does change, and we can be part of the people who help change that and influence that. If that's important for you, then you start training your audience to do it, like I'm probably going to start doing with Family Team over on ours. The hard part with Family Team is that there's a lot of people using it already that with content that's not really related to being a family team. So I'm not really sure. I might have to come up with something more specific than that, but you guys get the idea of what I'm kind of thinking of. Let's see here. Chris Conkle Vlogs. Thank you for being a sponsor, Chris. Do you use a hashtag research tool for Twitter or Instagram? If so, which one do you use? I do not use a hashtag research tool, and that's again going back to my strategy right now is not to use it to research to get like the perfect optimized hashtag. In fact, I think that using Family Team might be too broad, and I need to make it more specific so that it's like mostly my community's content and my videos showing up there. So hashtags in that sense become more or less like an automated playlist that anyone can contribute to, more and less of like a search thing. I don't think that's YouTube's intention, by the way. I think they do want it to become a discoverability tool. I just don't know that right now that's how people are using it. So all this might change as time goes on, but that's just kind of how I'm thinking about it right now. We love stories. Good question. Is there any analytical data for hashtags? Not that I know of. I can check real quick my analytics and see what might be there in terms of traffic. But I'd have to look on a different channel, actually. And I'm live streaming on this one, so I don't want to switch channels right now. But that would be interesting. There's none that I know of. If someone knows of something, post in the chat. The place I would look for it, if they were going to include it, that I think would make sense, it would be under traffic sources. Because in traffic sources, you can see search, and you can see, let's see here, search, suggested videos, YouTube search. Would it be under here? No, it's not. So if they're going to add it, that's where I think it would make most sense to add it. Let's go to, we do have a sponsor, Collins. Go to Brian and Nicole here. Hey, Brian, how are you, man?
Hey, good.
How are you? It's good to talk with you. Thanks for being a sponsor.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron's here also.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, guys. How are you? It's good to hear from both of you. So you guys have a question about hashtags.
Yeah, so would it be a good idea to retroactively add a few hashtags that are relevant for past videos and just update descriptions?
Yeah, I don't know, but I did that. So what I did on my family's channel is I went back and did a little search just on my channel for videos that are for Family Team. So I didn't change a lot of them. I just I added it to some of the videos that were more specifically around that concept. And I did add, we are a big family, all about becoming a family team or something like that, and added those hashtags. I haven't seen any difference in terms of discoverability or traffic yet or anything because of it. But I think I updated like 10 of them and added it to the description just to kind of see what would happen.
Awesome.
Cool.
So the order that they need to be added in is the highest rank that you want first, and then backwards from that, like descending, do you think, or does that matter?
Well, YouTube hasn't made any indication that that matters. The only indication that they've given is kind of going back to that help thing. They said, where is it here? Okay, so don't over tag. They said the more tags you add to a video, the less relevant they become for users who are searching. That's the quote.
Yeah.
So my feeling, my interpretation, and this makes sense, is if you like YouTube's like, don't just spam your content with hashtags thinking that that's going to help you be more discovered. They said add hashtags, but use, a few. It says don't add too many tags in a single video. That's what they said. So they didn't give a number, but it does seem to indicate that the more, as I said, the more tags you add, the less relevant they become. So that's why I'm thinking about just getting like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 and just focusing on those that are relevant for that video.
Cool.
Do you think it would be beneficial to always tag your page in every single description, like just once?
I don't, like a normal YouTube tag, or
like tag Be Adventure Partners, hashtag Be Adventure Partners, like throughout the description, like one time.
Oh, yeah, just once is sufficient. I don't think it's necessary to do it, to see the same tag multiple times. I also don't know that it's necessary to tag your own channel, like to tag video creators or tag like Smoothies in my family's channel's case, because I'm guessing I would end up being the only channel that would use that hashtag. And so it was not really advantageous for me to hashtag my channels that way. I think it's better if I can get a community of other people to start using that hashtag with me. And and they're not going to hashtag like video creators or hashtag Smoothies. So maybe here at Video Creators, one that I'm tossing around is hashtag change lives. And that's kind of like, that's the belief. That's the creed that I have about why all this matters in the first place. And so if there's other creators out there who believe that with me, then we could create like a little community of people who are about hashtag change lives. But it's not because there's a lot of people who are searching for changed lives. It's because we as a community want to know who else is in this community who shares this belief with me. And is there ways we can find to support each other, encourage each other, motivate each other, share resources. Like we have this common mission, and it's probably more of a community discovering itself type of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. Cool.
We could totally run with that hashtag with you.
Do it. Should we try it?
That goes along with our brand. Like we talked about, create a life you love. So
yeah, we'll run with you, brother.
Okay. Well, I haven't figured out if I'm going to use that one. Like changed lives. That's like a mission that I think could apply to like anything social media. It's YouTube. It's Instagram, like wherever you are reaching people and changing their lives, that could be any of the platforms. So I'm not really a YouTube fanboy as much as I'm a Change Lives fanboy. I don't think a lot of people realize that, but I think YouTube's an amazing platform for it, obviously. But I mean, podcasting is just as great, and so is any other platform you're reaching people. So I don't know if that's too broad or not. I don't know. I haven't put a lot of time into it either, to be honest with you. But yeah.
Totally.
Cool, guys.
Cool.
Well, that answer your question?
Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks for calling in. It's good to meet you guys.
All right, you too.
Okay.
Take care.
All right, you too. Bye. If you other sponsors want to call in, you can do so. But for those of you who are sponsors, we're going to be doing our monthly, just exclusive private live call-in show. It happens in 15 minutes. So at the top of the hour, for those of you guys who are on the live stream, and any of you guys who are listening to the podcast, you want to become one, there's a link in the show notes where you can tap and become a sponsor, and it gets you access to some additional perks to help support me and the channel here. It's $4.99 a month, and I've got a lot of exclusive, really big trainings that are coming up that are like in-depth, like stuff that I normally wouldn't make available here that we usually do when we work with clients. But I'm gonna make some of those trainings available for you guys who are sponsors, and I got to record those here in the next week or two. But we also do live call-in shows just for sponsors. We can call in, we can talk, hang out, talk about your thing, your stuff every month for $4.99. I think it's awesome, and I love hanging out and meeting you guys. So if you're not already sponsored, love to have you join our. We should start a hashtag for our sponsor community. How about that? Like hashtag VCTV member, since it's changing names here soon. But Yeah, so you guys are sponsors. Hang on, don't leave the stream after this. Go to my community tab, and that's where you'll find the link for the sponsored only live stream that we'll be doing here in a few minutes, where you guys can call in and we can talk about what you're doing on YouTube. So check that out. Let's do another question here from the chat. Using hashtag for a location or for a business. So this is from Dr. Sten Ekberg. He says, for business, Jeremy Vest thinks maybe Google Maps might do more with local maps. Do you think location for hashtag? I don't know. That'd be interesting. You know, like I guess I have used hashtags in that way when I'm at an event and I want to see what else is happening at this event among other people. I'll use that event's hashtag. A location or business, I don't know. That's a good idea too. I wish I had more answers for you guys definitively, but I think we're all just kind of learning, and so I'm just kind of sharing what I'm thinking right now. CloverTac. Could this lead to people, in essence, stealing your hashtags with non-related content? How will YouTube address that? Well, they said don't use non-related content because that can have your content banned and taken down and removed is the word that they use from YouTube. People stealing your hashtags, like, I hope people steal my hashtags and use them in an appropriate way, of course. I mean, they could do it with non-related content, but I would love for people to become a community around a community of people who are using hashtags and around a certain belief or something like that. No, don't worry about people stealing your tags or your hashtags. Come up with what's best for you and your audience, your community, your strategy, and go with that. Let's see. I put the band asks, does YouTube work with a hashtag algorithm? There's something there, like I kind of mentioned earlier, in terms of what's considered a top post in that hashtag and what's just a recent, I don't know what it is, but it's more than just the number of view counts that it gets. That's pretty clear because some of the videos that are top videos do not have as many views as some of the videos that are considered most recent, I've found. Should hashtag, so Relia video creator, sorry. Should hashtags be used in the title or description? Would that help or hurt in any way? You can do either one, title or description. I've only been using the descriptions right now because when you add it to the title, I don't know if there's a way to check. I would love to see click-through rates and things, but it's when you put it in the description, the hashtag is much smaller and it's right above the title. If you actually put the hashtag in the title, that hashtag in the title becomes clickable. So the text itself is much larger, but I don't know if it reads as well, the title of the video, because now you have black text that turns into blue text. And I wonder if that visual, although it's necessary in order for the viewer to know that part of the title is clickable, I'm not sure what that does to the video, the title at all in terms of readability when it switches colors like that. So right now, I'm just kind of keeping it in the description and kind of going with that. And a lot of you guys are asking about adding hashtags to older videos. We just answered that for the people who were called in, but I would also add to that I am not adding them to videos that are already performing well. Adding that hashtag pretty far down in the description probably isn't going to make a big difference, and I would feel safe to do it. But I am just like a stickler when it comes to some of this stuff, because when you update the metadata on your video, it can potentially kind of reset the way Google looks at some of the things on that video and start making it perform a little bit differently. So if it's already performing well, I don't want to change it. I don't want to touch it. So until I feel a little bit more comfortable about the impact that hashtags can have and how to use them and what to do with them strategically, I'm adding them to some of the content that is kind of flat to recent. I'm adding the recent stuff, but I haven't gone back and updated a ton in the past just because I want to learn a little bit more about how this works before I go and make those types of sweeping changes across the channel, and then learn oh, that was the wrong way to do it. Now we know tags actually work better this way. And then I got to do all that again, right? I'm just going to kind of hold off a little bit is where I'm at. So for those of you guys who are sponsors, I'll see you guys in a few minutes over in our next live stream. But for the rest of you guys, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. If you're listening to the recording of this, I'd love to have you join this awesome community of people. I usually have a couple hundred people here just hanging out, creators talking in the chat. And I love seeing how they're supporting each other and helping each other and sharing ideas far beyond like what we got to here in this recording. So if you're listening to the recording, we'd love to have you join us 1 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays at youtube.com/video creators and join the cool people who are hanging out in the chat. And if you are here in the chat now, love to see you guys here in a few minutes in the sponsored call. So thank you guys, all of you, for hanging out. Subscribe if you're not already. We are not just about YouTube views and more subscribers and more money and growing your business and all those types of things. All that's important, of course. But we see those things as tools that we can use to reach people and change their lives. So thank you guys for being a part of that mission here with me, and thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you guys again next Monday for the live stream and Tuesday on the podcast. See you guys then.